Ibrahim Raisi, also known as the Butcher of Tehran, just won the Iranian presidential election. And I use the term won pretty loosely here. Appointed president is probably more accurate. The voters didn't choose in Iran. The supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, runs the show there, and the Ayatollah selected Raisi as his next president. The turnout was pitiful as many stayed home in defiance of a fixed election. From a recent article in The Atlantic, for many Iranians, Raisi is most well known for his actions as one of the 4 judges who oversaw the torture and mass execution of approximately 5,000 members of an Iranian opposition group, including women and children, in the summer of 1988. He's a bad guy. 5,000 state-sponsored executions carried out over 5 months. 5,000 people. Can you imagine? Christina Lamb at The Telegraph reports secret documents revealed out of Iran, or smuggled out of Iran, I should say, reveal that because of the large numbers of necks to be broken, prisoners were loaded onto forklift trucks in groups of 6 and hanged from cranes in half-hourly intervals. She reports that more than 30,000 people were killed during that time in Iran. Raisi, 28 years old at the time, was a young man and acted as a hanging judge. He's now running the country. According to Ali Reza Jafarzadeh, the U.S. Deputy Director of the National Council of Resistance in Iran, the supreme leader has singled out Raisi because of his track record of implementing the most draconian measures to suppress dissent and an infinite, unwavering willingness to crack down on the organized opposition. Raisi ran for president back in 2017. He was badly beaten. Not anymore. He's a hardliner, and that's what made him the attractive choice of the supreme leader. And yesterday, the new president-elect held a press conference.
Here's his answer when asked if he's willing to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden.
No.
No. One thing that's pretty clear, this is going to make it much harder to revive the disastrous Iran nuclear deal, which was established by the Obama administration. That should be good news, unless, of course, the White House completely lies down and submits to a horrible deal. With Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken in charge isn't out of the realm of possibility, to be honest, but we hope that doesn't happen. Going through European intermediaries, the 6th round of the talks for the JCPOA in Vienna just wrapped up. Yesterday, Jen Psaki had this to say about the new president's refusal to meet with Joe Biden.
Well, we don't currently have diplomatic relations with Iran or any plans to meet with at the leader level, so it's unclear that anything has actually changed on that front. I will say that the president's view and our view is that the decision maker here is the supreme leader. That was the case before the election, is the case today, will be the case probably moving forward.
And then earlier this afternoon, this story broke. U.S. seizes Iranian news sites under unclear circumstances. Dozens of Iranian websites have notices like this one on Press TV, which is Iran's state-run English language service. The Biden administration making a preemptive move against a government they're trying to work a deal out with. Perhaps a lesson has been learned after the disaster that was the Putin summit. The White House may realize you won't get very far with our enemies by gifting them things like massive oil pipeline deals before the negotiation begins. We hope they are learning. Raisi's inauguration is on August 8th, which is now an artificial deadline to bring back the Iran deal before he officially takes office. The sanctions placed on Iran by the Trump administration, of course, have been crippling that economy for years now and doing the intended job. As The Atlantic reports, reviving the deal before the new administration takes over in Iran would allow the regime to blame the deal's shortcomings on the outgoing President Rouhani while allowing Raisi to reap the economic benefits of sanctions relief. So it's got to happen before August 8th, or there might not be much intention there. On our end, there is no reason to ever re-enter this weak-handed Iran nuclear deal, this bad accord. Iran under Ibrahim Raisi will be even less likely to play by any rules that the United States tries to draw up. Already, the new president is demanding sanction relief for his country, but saying his ballistic missile program and support for proxy terrorism is off the table. Iran will take our sanctions relief and continue to enrich uranium in secret, continue to fund terrorism across the Middle East, and laugh at America's foolish foreign policy the same way that they laughed, and the whole world laughs, at John Kerry during the Obama years, and to that extent, Joe Biden now. Iran has no intention of playing fair in this. We should all know that. The country With the most on the line in all of this, though, is Israel. And the newly installed prime minister there, Naftali Bennett, issued a strong warning against the new president of Iran to other world leaders.
Raisi's selection is, I would say, the last chance for the world powers to wake up before returning to the nuclear agreement and to understand who they're doing business with. These guys are murderers, mass murderers. A regime of brutal hangmen must never be allowed to have weapons of mass destruction that will enable it to not to kill thousands but millions. Israel's position will not change on this.
It's a really scary time right now. And he makes a good point. A president willing to kill thousands of his own people. Imagine what he would do to the rest of the world if he had nuclear weapons. The first target, of course, would be Israel, which Iran's government wants to destroy. Quote, since the regime seized power in 1979, it has planned and executed terrorist plots, assassinations, and attacks in more than 35 countries worldwide. Before Trump left the nuclear deal, Obama gave Iran $150 billion, which was mostly spent on terrorism. Great investment. As Iran experts Brian Leib and Len Khodorkovsky, who I'll be speaking with here in just a minute, write for Newsmax, quote, we just witnessed the byproduct of Obama's generosity when Hamas and Islamic Jihad, two of Iran's Palestinian puppets, attacked Israel with more than 4,300 rockets very recently. Israel was hammered with rockets for weeks and then blamed by Democrats here in the U.S. and Congress for defending itself. That's a whole other issue. But this is what Iran does with the money that the world allows it to have. It pays for brutal terrorist attacks. The best thing that we can do is keep nuclear weapons out of the hands of a guy whose nickname is the Butcher of Iran. And the best way to do that is to not give them any kind of a deal and don't give them any money. We know it wouldn't end well. Biden needs to end this negotiation over the JCPOA and continue the process of starving this regime out of power through sanctions. It's the only common sense move.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.